Takes more than guts to be a gangster. It takes good ideas. And I hope these good ideas help you. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is your mob boss, Gangster KT, here for my third YouTube video. We'll stop doing that count, but still very early for me. And just again, appreciate the unbelievable support and feedback I've gotten so far. Seems like people are liking this little different take on Marvel Strike Force content, and I really hope to be able to continue that. So today we're going to cover our mob agenda, 5 tips for today. And I'll say the one people are probably most interested in is level 95 planning, but also have a few just random tips in there, things that have been on my mind. And it's going to be all over the place, but I really hope some of these tips do help you out. So let's get into it. So first off, level 95 planning. I think everyone's probably seen that news that level 95 is coming next patch, and it can be intense. It can really be overwhelming. I know most of my characters are still, or a lot of my characters are still at level 85, besides my horseman teams and the one I've really been prioritizing. So I am not going to be able to take everyone up to level 95 at all, and I'm going to be very deliberate in what I do and how I plan for those characters. Additionally, level 95 is not needed for the horsemen, so while they're typically the best characters and the ones you do want to power up the most, it's the first time in a while where you actually don't have to do that. Let's go through how I'm going to prioritize. First and foremost, I will focus on my arena team. I think arena is still the best daily resources in the game from those rewards and the power cores, how important those are. Additionally, the arena teams are also the ones that are meta in the other game modes. So I think it's pretty much a no-brainer to work on them first. You don't necessarily have to take them to level 95. You need them to be big enough to get your wins in arena and to try and hold on defense, which is near impossible these days. Um, but they will be my first priority. Number two, definitely got to support my mob. The gangsters have been rolling with me for a while, and my friends in this game. And the best way to do that is to make sure you're carrying your weight and raids. Still very important for those daily rewards, so I'm going to make sure my raid teams are big enough. So I actually, until there's a new raid or until we increase difficulty, probably won't work on my raid teams too much. I have them right now where I want them, but if you do need that extra little power and don't want to put gear into them because you're saving it for the horseman teams, putting a couple levels on them will be a great way to get those wins in raid without the RNG and without having to use as many heals. So next tip here, don't go back too far. I'd still recommend focusing on the new toons. I'd love to have a level 95 Omega Red, a level 95 Doom, but if I do that, I'm not going to be able to build up the new teams like I want to. So I'm not sure how many people I'll actually take to level 95 when that's an opportunity, but I would advise still keeping that focus on the new toons. Number four, think about why you play. Resources are going to be very limited when this comes out, probably both training, mats, and gold. So, focus on what's most fun for you and where you want to have the most success in the game and really focus your investments on that area. And then the last tip here, don't stress it. One, it's going to take a while to get to level 91, to get to level 95. So no need to stress about it, but I think it is good to start planning now, maybe saving up some resources for when you can power up those best toons or where you really want to play and start thinking about that there. So tip two, partial gearing. This one is something where I've really changed my approach the past few months. And the main reason for that is because of the T14 upgrade. It's been a year or two now that that came out, but if you guys will remember, when you'd upgrade a character to T14 gear and actually do that upgrade, it would be about a 20% stat bonus across the board. And that wasn't reflected in the power level. The power level increase seems random and not really based on the stat increase, but the stat increase itself was huge. And I got to the point where when I was going for T14 and even into T15, I would not put gear on anyone unless I was putting all 6 pieces on them at once, just because of how much more valuable that actual tier upgrade was versus the individual pieces of gear. That's now changed a lot, and it's made me change my approach to how I'm doing gearing, and I'm doing a lot more partial gearing. So you can see in these pictures, I have some examples. It's probably hard to see the numbers, but when I T16'd Icarus, the actual T16 increase itself, I was so disappointed in the stat increases. His damage went up less than 1%, his health less than 1%. There just wasn't much there at all to where that increase itself wasn't that valuable. Morgan's a little different. I did want to show another example. It's not an across the board huge increase at all, but her damage actually did go up about 8% or a little over 3,000, and that is not negligible at all. So her T16 upgrade was pretty valuable and got maybe more value there than some of the gear pieces specifically. So you really don't know what's going to happen with those upgrades until you do them. You can see that data on msf.gg if you really want to study it, but I don't do that because I'd never change who I'm going to take to T16 based on how big that upgrade is itself. I know what characters I want to upgrade, and I do that. But it is kind of an interesting dynamic and why I started doing more partial gearing, which I should have been doing a while ago. So the last thing I want to show in the picture is there. You can see when you actually do a piece of gear upgrade, it quickly flashes across the screen what that upgrade is. And I was able to catch that in that Archangel screenshot there. And that upgrade ends up being a lot higher than what it actually shows on the screen you're going to get when you upgrade that gear. It's taking in the other bonuses that the character provides to his stats and showing what the true value is. And not sure how well you can see that. But that one piece of gear I put on Archangel increased his damage by over 2,000, and that is huge. That is not negligible at all. So again, just showing this to show that partial gearing I do feel is part of min-maxing now. I will not put partial gear on a character unless I know I do want to take them to that next tier level. I still think that's a good idea, but instead of waiting until I have all 6 pieces ready, I start putting the pieces on when I get them. So next tip, red star orb priority for featured characters. So this is something I've used to calm myself down a little bit over the horrible luck I had with Titania. As you can see from that picture there, I only got her at 2 red stars. I probably opened 20 to 25 Elite 4s and Elite 5s. I did not open my Elite 6. Want to save that for a better character on the team. But in hindsight, I really wish I hadn't done that and kept trying to chase that star. I always want to get my new characters to 5 red stars eventually, usually 4 or 5 from the initial polls, and then use credits to do the rest. But one thing I realized was, why am I in a hurry to get Titania up to 4 or 5 red stars now? I mean, sure, I'd love to have it, and she'd definitely be usable. I might be able to plug her into Crucible somewhere. But at the end of the day, her most value is going to be when her full team comes out. And with her being the first character released and how quickly, to Scopely's credit, they are putting characters in the Red Star store to be able to buy those. I'm very confident I'll be able to get her up to 5 red stars before I'm really utilizing her a lot daily and getting her full value. The last character on the team that's going to come out, and I forget the order right now, but that's a different story, right? As soon as you can get them big, you're going to have that whole team. And at that point, you do want them. So going forward, I'll open some orbs for the first character, and I'll say the exception is, especially if the first character is the most powerful or the one you want the biggest red stars on, then I think you definitely chase it and go as big as you can. But going forward, I'll just open a few if it's that first character, and as long as I have the currency to buy those red star upgrades from the store, knowing I'll be able to do it before I'm really fully using the character. So next tip, for Crucible, if you're seeing a Tangle Web dorm team, there's an interesting sack I think everyone knows about taking in the 5 minions. One thing I did not know, but have recently started using, and it's extremely successful, is adding Minerva to that team. So first off, I never want to take credit for ideas that aren't mine. Huge shout out to Dova for this tip. He was one of my Crucible opponents. I actually love talking to people I face in Crucible, especially the smaller accounts where they're taking out the whales and obviously really know what they're doing. It's just fun picking the brain. I love talking to the community. But he'd given me this tip a little while ago, and this was the first time in the screenshot I was able to leverage it, and it worked to great success. So as you know, you want to eat 2099's alt with the sack team normally on this team to keep from getting all those debuffs and to keep Spiderweaver from getting that speed for your main attack. And I think a lot of people are doing that. But if Dorm's on the team especially, or really just in general, throwing Minerva onto that sack squad can be pretty valuable. So a few notes on this one specifically. When your other minions die, because of Minerva's passive, she gets that speed up. So after 2099 goes and takes them out, it will be her turn next. And then you actually have to sit there and basically let it time out before doing her alt. But her alt does, it's here 15 or 20% damage to all characters. I think it's 20%. And so what I did was 2099, took out my 4 scrubs there, and then Minerva got the speed from that. It was her turn. I waited till there was 2 seconds left in the Crucible match, and then I hit her ult, and so that was the last thing to occur in the match. That took the health off of the characters, but most importantly off of Dormammu. So when I went in with my next team, all their characters didn't have that revive from Dormammu because he wasn't at full health. So additionally, they were all 15 or 20% lower in health, which just made it even easier. So I will say, the first time I went in, 2099 went first, so this went perfectly. When I went in with my real team, um, Spider-Man Noir actually went next, my favorite guy, but he went first on that one. And so I don't know, I thought he always went first, but it didn't happen the first time. So I'm still learning about that. But even worst case, if he goes first and then 2099 wiped your whole team, it really doesn't matter. It's no different than doing the sack just with 5 small minions. So I think this is really valuable. I did one time accidentally try and do this against the Tangleweb Axeman team, and because of Beast getting the speed too, it did not work at all. But as long as they don't have another mechanic that gives speed like Archangel or Beast when your characters die, I'm going to start doing this almost every time against Tangleweb, especially when that Dorm is there because it is so valuable. So tip number 5 and my last one. This is probably obvious to a lot of people, but use the verse battle favorites to help with your roster upgrade planning. And I was struggling to come up with a 5th tip, admittedly, and was watching another content creator video today, and they made the comment, I really wish Scopely would put a tag for the tunes needed for Apocalypse. And I think that's a fair comment, but there's a way to do that in game, and I've been doing it for months, and that's by using that verse battle favorites. So you can use the normal favorite, but I use that to keep my characters at the top that I'm farming or that I'm trying to prioritize. But as you can see in the picture here, this is my first battle favorites, and there's my 23 characters needed for Apocalypse. So when I'm figuring out who am I going to put that next Blue 4 ISO on, or who am I going to put that next T16 upgrade on, it really makes it easier to have it right there. And you can use this for anything you're working on. It doesn't just have to be the APOC teams, but I do think this is the most valuable use right now. So just a fun little tip a lot of people probably know. I'll also say those characters there are not reflective of my account level. If you watch my other videos, you know I'm very focused on prioritization and exactly where I want to put my investments, and those are the Horseman teams. So I have these guys as big as I can because of the APOC requirements, because of how much I use them elsewhere, but most of my account is not at this size by any means. So I hope these tips helped you today. Again, they were kind of all over the place, but just still trying to do something a little different from other CCs out there, and thought that this might be valuable for you. So really appreciate you watching. As always, I give you my word that this is the best advice I have. All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. Peace.